Welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Spencer and Larry, and we're going to be discussing episode number 5 of WandaVision on a very special episode. That's the title. If you've not hit the sub button, please do so. Hit the bell so you'll know when we put these reviews up. Lots of other content on the channel. Leave a comment, leave a like. I want to open with this one by saying not only is it full spoilers and there's the big reveal at the end, but we're also going to discuss potential leaks and rumors. So if you don't want any of that, and I know some people don't, click out of the video now because we are going to go into it. We're not going to go into anything more than what's been reported on a lot of websites, but it is spoilers, and if you're trying to be spoiler free, click away now. You've been warned. So yeah, Quicksilver. Not just any Quicksilver. The Quicksilver from the Fox properties has appeared at the end of the episode, playing that role. That's a big deal. We'll talk about if it is him, and then we'll talk about the potential leaks after that. But Larry, you damn near called that scene completely shot for shot. That was not anything you had read, seen. There was no leak of that exact playing out that way. But you called that shit, dude.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to be so, on the nose, but I did think something similar to that would happen. But yeah, I'm curious of the significance of this, and it was, I mean, Spencer, I know you love the show that they're clearly parroting here, so you probably love that scene too, but yeah, I'm curious of the significance. Is that actually Quicksilver? Is that someone being mind controlled to be Quicksilver, or is it the thing that I'm sure, given your intro there, we're about to go into?
Yeah.
It's I mean, it's a good mystery, and it's one of those things where this episode was great, and it's another one of those things where I have a friend, a couple of friends actually, who I know, were heard about the first 2 episodes, and they've seen the trailers, and they're just like, yeah, I'm not up for 2-3 episodes of this. And, I can give them this, and I can tell them, hey, at least watch the second half of episode 3, start from there, and watch these next couple of, watch episode 4 and 5. And then maybe if you like what you're seeing, you can watch the first 2, like their webisodes or additional content.
You could jump in you're right. You could literally almost jump in at 4.
Yeah.
And be really invested, I think.
Yeah, honestly. So yeah, this one was good, and I think we needed a little bit more material like this, maybe for those who aren't fully on board for the sitcom or aspect of it, or aren't patient enough for it. We need a little bit more of this weirdness, maybe a little bit more of the what's going outside of Westview stuff, or you could have kept it a mystery. I think episode 1, but you need it to lean more into what's odd about this in the first 2 episodes. But this was great overall. Love the episode as a whole.
I look at it like a movie length. So by them going into it by the end of episode 3, or towards the middle end of episode 3, when they started to kind of play more into this, that's only 50 minutes into a movie, because these episodes, the parts that they're actually showing, not the 9 minutes of credits and all that shit, these episodes are only 22 minutes long. So to me, it's split up almost perfectly, where the first, there's some intrigue and some stuff going on. They're hinting at stuff, but not really playing into it. And then by the, towards the end of episode 3 is when you start getting some bigger reveals. And I like it. So, I'm devil's advocating kind of what Larry was saying, but to me, I look at it on a longer term, because once this is all done, I've already rewatched The Mandalorian season 2 twice. It's one of those things where together it's even better, but episodic, it's still really good. And I think this will benefit once it's done, to making more sense and being better put together. But I also have really enjoyed it episodically also.
Well, yeah, and I think I was thinking that myself, that taking it in as a whole, it may have been better if these episodes were longer for that reason you're saying, because of the particular pacing. Now, the fact that we have it week to week as what it is, I worry that they may have lost some people in those first few episodes is the problem. Who just thought, oh, this is the show. Well, I'm not down for this. Who don't realize there's more there, or don't have the patience for more. And
Yeah, but I think with the way that this series is going, and Brian's already hinted towards this, so I'm not going to say it just yet, but the way this is going, it's going to have such an effect on the rest of the Marvel universe, not just casual fans who, like, you equated a lot of the Marvel movies to those like barbecue movies where, Iron Man 3 is playing in the background. It doesn't really matter. But the next wave of Marvel seems to be each movie is going to be very involved. Whereas the previous generation, it was just like one little thing towards the end, which tied into the rest of the movies. And I think that this, assuming what we're assuming where it's going, is that this is going to tie into all of the second stage, I guess, of because I know those like stage 9 or whatever the fuck they're calling it, but it's the post Avengers stage.
Yeah,
and I this stage that they're getting ready to go into, WandaVision is going to be so important that many people, even if they don't watch it now, once they see like the next movie comes out or something, like, what the hell's going on? They'll go back and watch it.
I'm going to go into the potential leak right now, because if it's true, you're right. This will tie into everything going forward. So the Quicksilver we see is in fact Evan Peters, excuse me, who plays Quicksilver in as I said, the Fox film. So even if he's not who he says he is, the fact that it's that likeness is a big deal in terms of bringing in other characters from other universes. And we already know with the Spider-Man film and the next Doctor Strange film, titled Multiverse of Madness, we're going to be bringing in actors and characters from other universes. So the rumor is, and the supposed leak, because there's been some images that have leaked, we think they're on the up and up. They're saying that he is in fact the villain known as Mephisto. And if this is true, Mephisto has had involvement with pretty much every single Avenger at some point and has ruined many, many characters' lives. This is a big, big deal if that is who he in fact is. Now, we've brought up Mephisto several times, I think, in these reviews, and I think, yeah, we have. So this is not that radical outside of what we were already predicting without potential leaks. But what do you guys think? If either he is or isn't, but him being there is still a big deal regardless, I think.
Before I get into that theory, when you said Evan Peters instead of Evan, all I could think of was like an adult version of Even Stevens. It just made me laugh. But anyway, we talked about who the next big bad guy should be. And we talked about, and this was months ago, when they said that Doctor Strange was going to be in the next Spider-Man movie. Like, there's a lot of things that were released like back in October timeframe. And we were talking about it, and we talked about Mephisto then. Like, we threw around his name being a big, like the next big Thanos type character, where you could bring in a bunch of different people, tie in a bunch of different people together, and it would make sense. But we talked about, like I said, we've talked about Mephisto way in the past and about his effect on, all the Avengers, and not just Avengers. This would be a way to bring in multiple characters from other universes. And when we talked about the House of M stuff, they may tie it into where Mephisto is the one responsible for the House of M kind of storyline, and ends up bringing all the mutants in to this universe because they bought out all the XMen and all that stuff. So I'm thinking that that's a good character. It makes sense to me. It doesn't necessarily mean that's who it is, but it does make the most sense and point in that direction.
Yeah, but here's why I think it may not be Mephisto, actually. Or if it is, it's Mephisto using a similar technique to to what he's used to either manipulate Wanda or control the people in this town. I think it's not Mephisto because it not being Mephisto is a good way for it to lead into Multiverse of Madness. If Wanda figures it out and Mephisto is involved in some way, or Mephisto is possessing Pietro, and that's actually Pietro himself, then she feels betrayed. She believes it's not her brother, and then it's all a trick, and then Mephisto taunts her the way that he often taunts Marvel heroes, revealing that no, it's actually him, and her discovering that it is her brother from an alternate reality or timeline is what triggers the events that lead her into Multiverse of Madness, because that's who she's looking, or maybe she's the cause because she knows that her brother is out there somewhere.
That's a good way to tie it together. I don't disagree with that. It could be, I just think he's involved. And like you said, that he could be manipulating the situation. I don't think that that's far-fetched either. I think that's a pretty good, solid theory also.
Well, even S.W.O.R.D is confused by her power level here. I'm glad they actually explained it a little bit, that she's rewriting reality. I love they actually said those words. Monica Rambeau figures it out. But they're like, where the hell did all this shit come from? And I have to question. They're definitely, I feel they're leaning towards there being another party involved, whether Mephisto or whomever, because what she's doing right now is just, it seems beyond what she's shown us she's been able to do. I should say the MCU version of Scarlet Witch.
Absolutely. And I'm curious, like, have we ever in the movies, like, it's been a while since I've watched this. Have we ever seen her control anybody's mind? Because they seem to think that's part of her power set. I don't remember seeing her do that.
When she was first introduced, she could, but it was a very small level. She had to like be there with you basically, and she had to come into physical contact, and it was on a very small scale basically.
Well, yeah. I recall like seeing a scene where like she's touching someone's temples or something.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, even if that's in her power set, like she's got her powers beyond what she's had before, and then there's the reality manipulation aspect of it. So
Or
yes,
bringing people back from the dead.
exactly. Yeah. So someone else has to be involved, and I imagine at the very least on some subconscious level, Wanda knows that she's made some sort of agreement, because we have that footage from later in the episode where they show her stealing the Vision's body, and it's like, why would she do that unless she had some sort of plan? There was something she planned to do, or she's made a deal with someone that could supposedly help her bring him back.
Yeah, I agree. We have 4 characters now inside Westview that seem to know what's going on and have the ability to think for themselves and do for themselves. That being the Vision now, the twins, Billy and Tommy, her powers don't seem to work on them. They seem to be independent. And Agnes, who clearly now is in on it in that she's independent and she can operate outside of the instruction being given to her mind. No one else seems to be able to do that. So you can take it character by yeah, exactly. And I was like, no, you establish when Vision, I forget the guy that he works with, but he basically frees his mind briefly, and then he takes it away. So that shows that they can't just break away. She can. Agnes clearly can. So what do you guys think about Agnes, the twins, and where Vision goes from here now that he's starting to figure things out?
His name was Norm, I think.
Yeah, Norm.
And I think that Agnes, the line with Agnes when they kind of go off script a little bit, and she's
love that.
Dude, that to me felt very, very Truman Showy. Like nobody else was supposed to be in on it, but she's kind of figured it out. And it was so brilliantly done. And then the fact that she played it straight the rest of the time. Like there was a couple times where it looked like she was improvising something because she was like thinking about it for a second, and then she would start talking. It felt very, I don't know. It was just so believable and well done that it kind of caught me off guard a little bit as to how well that scene was written and how it played into the rest of the episode.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, and Agnes definitely seems to know what's going on. But then again, I'm starting to question, you know, Agnes's level of understanding for what's happening because, like, you know, she seems part of this bargain. She seems to know what's going on, and she seems to be operating independent of Wanda to some degree, or not be under her control. Like, however, she does seem taken aback a little bit, like when Billy and Tommy mentioned that she can bring back the dead. You know, she paused for a minute, and there's a serious look in her face, and she kind of says, "You can do that." You know, like she wasn't aware of the state the Vision was in before they came to this town. Like, so my question is, like, how much does Agnes know? Is Agnes working with some other party to set this up, be it Mephisto or whoever, you know, but unaware of the level of power that Wanda has now, you know, given this bargain that she's made or whatever she's done to set up the conditions that, you know, created Westview as it is now.
And I think that's going to play an important role going forward, because regardless of who the main bad guy is, how are we going to get Wanda on board? Because she's controlling the whole scenario. When she walks out and confronts, I don't remember which, you know, the S.W.O.R.D agents, the FBI, when she confronts all the opposing military forces,
Yeah.
but it shows that she knows what she's doing. She is in 100% control of it, and she's kind of justifying it like, this is the best way that I can deal with what's going on, and I'm trying to basically hurt as few people as possible. And so she's justifying it to herself, but I don't know how they're going to get her on board. How are they going to get her to be on board with stopping it? And that to me is a huge mystery, and I'm very curious as to how they're going to figure that out.
Yeah, S.W.O.R.D, you know, they're treating her as a threat, and she is clearly. That was the only thing I didn't love, the whole Aunt Monica Rambeau interaction. I can't remember the guy's name, but whoever's in charge of S.W.O.R.D, she kept defending Wanda, and I understand that they're going in the direction where it's not necessarily Wanda, but based on evidence presented, I'm like, I can't imagine being on board with what Wanda is doing, because she's like, well, she's not this and she's not that. She could have killed me. Well, sure, she could have killed you, but it's not taking away the fact that she's imprisoning these people for her little game. So that interaction I thought was a little odd.
Well,
But
yeah, because
like I said, they're painting it that, you know, she's not completely doing this on her own.
well,
Yeah, it's like you still mind controlled and kidnapped a town.
The entire town. Yeah, and that's what I was like, y'all being a little too nice.
well, just like the whole. Now, I get her. I think the way they should have spun it was be like, I don't think she has evil intent, because I don't think she does either. However, when people rob banks, sometimes they're holding hostages. They don't plan on killing people. They just want the money. But shit happens sometimes. So, like, do you remember the movie Trapped in Paradise, the Christmas movie with Nick Cage? That
I mean, okay.
do you remember it?
No.
I don't
No?
recall it either,
What?
but I want to see where you're going with this.
Dude, okay. It's got Nick Cage, Dan, the dude who played Garth. For whatever reason, his name's escaping me.
Dana Carvey.
Yes, there you go. And John Lovitz is in it, and they play three brothers who end up in this town called Paradise, Pennsylvania, and they rob a bank, and then they feel bad about it, and they return the money. Like, it is a great movie. It's funny as shit. It's on HBO Max, by the way. I watched it at Christmas time. But where the town like fell in love with him. This is not that kind of scenario where, regardless of the bad shit that they're doing, she isn't she doesn't have their consent. Like, she is not convincing these people that this is a great time. She's not convincing people that this is a great thing. This isn't a vacation for these people. So if they were able to get anybody else out of this scenario and be like, yeah, you know, what she did was helping me get past this, or helping me escape my own personal whatever. You know, she's holding these people against their will. And it is, to me, not a warm and fuzzy thing. So for, like you said, Monica Rambeau to be, well, I don't really see it that way. There's no other way to see it.
Well, yeah, especially given the scene with Norm earlier. That
yes, complete. Yes, Larry, go ahead. Because
that
was the point I was about to make.
Yeah, these people are tortured and trapped in their mind, and they've been like that for at the very least days, if not weeks or months. You know, it's like she's tormenting them. They're trapped in their own bodies, and they seem to only be suffering from what we're getting from Norm, and and she's still kidnapped them regardless of their intent. So yeah, the director's reaction is understandable, and Monica, like, while she may be empathizing with her, she is going a little too easy on Wanda here. But if she was taking that from the perspective of, okay, we're dealing with an incredibly dangerous superhuman who now has powers beyond our understanding, you know, we may need to empathize with her. I would get that. It's like, but, you know, she's feeling a little bit too much empathy for her. And that's true.
Well, yes, because as powerful as Scarlet Witch is, we know in the comics, but now they finally addressed it in this, you know, the cinematic universe, how strong she is. So they don't need to be empathetic. They need to be afraid and figure out how to kind of get her on board and, you know, kind of rein that back in, because I'm trying to remember which DC property it was. I mean, I know Superman, but where they show Superman is that he's basically a god. So if you piss off a god, like, what is he capable of doing? Now, you know, you have Superman, who was morally not going to do a lot of those things, but if pushed wrong, what would he be capable of? And that's been Scarlet Witch this whole time, is that, yes, she helped, you know, defeat Thanos. Yes, she helped do all these things, but with Vision dying, she's been pushed to that brink again because her brother already passed. So now Vision died and she's been pushed to that brink another time. There is no way that she shouldn't be 1,000% feared, not empathized with.
It's also weird to me that at this point in time, with their understanding of the situation, that they haven't brought in any superhumans to sort of help deal with this.
Yeah, I think I've brought this up last week. These are the big issues you run into when you're trying to tell these kinds of stories with a big cinematic, you know, big massive universe, because where the hell is Strange at? Where is Banner? Where, you know, you can start naming off characters. Why aren't they there? Doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, where's Strange? Where's Thor? You know, where's any of these people?
Well, I think that would be a great way to tie in Mephisto also. And although they didn't really do it, they did kind of with the Thanos storyline, where he was pulling strings in different parts, kind of separating them until they finally all figured it out, got together and did whatever. But this could be done in a similar way, is that he's causing all kinds of division between the different superheroes and giving them their own struggles to try and deal with, basically trying to tear them apart. So I think it would be great for them to do it that way and show it, but you have to show it, because, like I said, you know, Captain Marvel, their way of showing it was that she wasn't on Earth. Like, she left in the 90s. But they showed it, and although that wasn't my favorite movie, they at least explained it, because somebody that strong not being around to help, it makes sense that way.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna have to, I think, at some point really soon address other heroes, and I think they might. You know, there was a theory a couple episodes back that Strange may in fact appear at the end of this, and maybe he's already involved off screen. So I think I'm thinking that'll be addressed. At least I hope so. A couple characters you could explain, you know, like Winter Soldier and Cap, Falcon Cap, they're on a mission and it's important, or maybe these stories take place concurrently. We know that they have a series coming up, so those things I don't know, but specifically characters like Hulk or Strange, those two in my mind stick out the most. That I don't think they're doing any. I don't think they're off world. I don't think they're doing anything. You're gonna have to tell me, you know.
Well, I don't know. They should just explain it that they don't own,
or War Machine.
They just don't own Hulk, so that's the reason he's not. They should just have a lawyer pop in and do one of the funny little comedy sketch bits, and they explain that away. But to me, the biggest question mark is Strange. However, like we said, these episodes have basically been one day, because they mention it like it hasn't been that long.
I think they said. I think the dude said 9
days
so total, the whole thing, the entirety.
So even 9 days.
And they didn't realize it until, you're right, like a day or two ago.
So if Strange hasn't hopped on it yet, it could just be because he's not aware of it yet. But this seems like something that he will be made aware of very quickly because of the things that are involved and the ramifications of it and the reality bending that she's doing. I imagine that he would catch wind of that pretty quickly.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I was going to mention Doctor Strange specifically, because this is kind of the whole of what he does. This is his whole bag, dealing with this sort of reality bending thing, that's going on here. So you think right away he would detect this and go, "Whoa, what's going on?" Unless he has something much bigger that's going on at the time. It's this is his job. It's literally his job to deal with this kind of thing. So it would be weird for him not to pop in, or for him to at least not send another sorcerer or something.
Larry, I was going to ask you specifically, unless you know, Spencer, the answer. The dog Sparky, who dies, Tommy and Billy's pet. Is there a connection to the comics in any way, a storyline or anything? I didn't take the time to look it up. I didn't know.
I was wondering about that when I saw the scene. I don't think so. I don't think they had a dog Sparky, unless I'm missing that. Unless this is new Young Avengers lore that I'm not familiar with. Because I was wondering that myself. I'm like, no, there's no hints that this is like their dog, or that this is a Marvel significant dog like Cosmo or anything. But we will see. Well, actually, no, we won't see, because Sparky's gone. Unless Uncle Pietro is going to show up with I found this dog. He just dug his way out of the ground. We get hints that Mephisto won't.
I hope that happens now. I hope that you called the next thing.
Sparky's a legit character. I just looked it up real quick, and it's in the comics, and it says Sparky is a dog, became a part of Vision's synthesoid family, but his brutal, violent life became much more of a symbol of the story's calamitous themes than a normal human family Vision thought off in the suburbs.
I'm glad you wanted. I'm glad you decided to mention that, because that was another thought I had. That this seems very much like an amalgam between not only the original story they're doing of Wanda's little break where Tommy and Billy were born, but also like the more recent story run of the Visions, in which Vision crafts a family of his own in the suburbs. Okay, so Sparky's from that. That makes sense. So that kind of sits with my theory that they're doing sort of a hybrid of both stories to a degree.
That makes, definitely. Speaking of the twins, Tommy and Billy, she tried to quiet them with her powers, didn't work. Later they grow up on their own. She tells them not to age up again. They decide not to, but clearly she isn't stopping them with her abilities. She's stopping them with her words at that point. They have free will, and they clearly are doing their own thing. We know in the comics, they both have powers. This is going to get very interesting very quickly, as far as these characters and how they fit into the bigger MCU. This is the only especially the fact that this is the only reality they know at this point, and just how odd they're going to be going forward when they do grow up. But it is exciting. I think it could be really fun.
I I enjoy the addition of these characters, and we've talked about so many of the people not being involved in the MCU anymore because with Tony and Cap, which I think he said he signed on, but I think it's just going to be kind of like a cameo for a second.
Like a lot of Tony. I'm joking.
I don't know. I haven't seen Endgame yet. I just heard that he will be around.
Yeah, no spoilers for Endgame.
Well, I mean, he's the big hero of the Marvel universe. Obviously, he's going to show up at some point.
Yeah, that's what. Do you know something I don't know, Brian? But with so many of the characters finishing, this would be a great way to bring in some new ones. Now you have Wanda and Vision's kids. You have like we've talked about the what's the new group? The Supreme
Squadron Supreme.
There you go. There's hints of some of those characters coming. So I think what they're trying to do is use this show to kind of set the next wave of characters coming through. And, the Multiverse of Madness, where you're basically tying all these other universes, they could find out who people like and pull those back into the cinematic universe, which I would love if the gentleman from the Netflix, Matt Murdock, came into the movie universe. He did such a good job.
Yeah, that'd be great. That's something I'm hoping for too. That would be awesome. Bring him in, bring in the Punisher.
Oh, he was so good too.
The only thing I want to not be canon is like, somehow this is canon and yet Iron Fist never happened.
Agreed.
Wanda didn't bring him over.
Well, that's the beauty with the way they could do this. They honestly can pick and choose who they bring over. You basically remember when Ultimatum happened, which was a horrible comic book event, but basically the Ultimate Universe ended and they decided that they were going to handpick some of the characters they liked, bring them to the 616 universe, and the rest they just killed off. This is essentially what they could do here. Go look at all the Netflix shows, the Fox shows, and say, okay, what do we like, what do we not like, and pull over what they want and get rid of the rest. So, yeah, there's a lot of potential here, and this was the first step showing a character who appeared in a different universe.
Well, and there's so many. When you look at, all the XMen and all the different mutants that they weren't allowed to use. You have Fantastic Four. They're allowed to use Spider-Man now, which they've done a little bit in the past at this point. But there's so many different characters, and now they own all the Netflix stuff. And although like Jessica Jones was not great, although David Tennant would be another great villain to pull into the movie universe. Luke Cage was the first season I liked, the second season not so much, but I loved Daredevil. I loved, John Barenthal, or I think that's how you say his name, but I loved him in Punisher. I loved his.
I want Dolph Lundgren Punisher from the 80s.
You would. But, and they've already confirmed too that they're going to do some rated R Marvel movies. So
yes,
so when you look at Punisher or Daredevil, there's some characters who would fit in perfectly with that kind of environment, which they did in the Netflix version. Like it was super brutal and bloody, and there was sex scenes. Like it felt more along the lines of something that those characters should be involved with. And with the MCU now saying, you know what, we are going to make some. It makes me happy that they're not isolating their fans, because their biggest pull of people are not kids. It's people our age.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And, and I think this show is definitely a sign of that, like maybe not that the Marvel universe is going to have adult properties, and they're doing, like you said, more mature stories, but this is a good sign that they're they're broadening their scope of what a Marvel movie can be, or a Marvel TV show, which is neat. And regardless of how this show does ratings well, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I'm sure, I hope that they keep that attitude, because there's a lot of really cool stories you can do, and there's a lot of great stories you can get out of that. I mean, look at, for example, look at that last Wolverine movie they did. That was great, and out of a series of hits and misses, that was great, but it was also drastically different than any other, X-Men movie that they've done so far. It was very, very different. And, hopefully Disney going into the future, post this show, will be willing to take those big risks, and we'll get some payoffs from that.
And you could actually, that bringing that film up is a great example of, you set up X-23 completely for another film. It was set up at the end.
Yeah.
So good.
That actress, she's on an HBO show. Was she on that?
His Dark Materials.
There you go. She's the star of that series. But I think they only got like one more season. I don't remember. I think they got picked up for another season. Point being, she's a working actress. I'm sure she wouldn't mind coming over to Disney and doing a show or a movie or whatever. I think it was set up, and that's a character that you could bring over. There's a lot of potential characters that have been set up that could come in to the MCU.
Which I think that they're probably working on, because you can't do 20 movies with Chris Evans. I mean, they're not animated series, so you can't have the same people play the same aged people for forever. So they have to create characters to kind of work from going forward. And I think that she is a great example of a character that not only would work, she's young and could, do several movies. And X-23, like, I have a couple different toys of X-23. I love X-23.
Yeah, it's a great character with a lot of potential, and especially since they're pushing for, I think, to have a wide gamut of properties, and we're clearly we've got some clear Young Avengers setups, not just in this show but in the movies and things. So like, if you're gonna have that, that's also a good setup for your young generation of X-Men who are in training. Where you have perhaps like an older Logan, like at the very least, like a middle-aged group of original X-Men training this younger group of X-Men, because X-Men is about this school of mutants, and a lot of these characters. I mean, if you want a wider gamut of X characters in those properties, then you have that, you have those characters in a mentor role, and you have that, New Mutants or X-Men Academy or whatever you have group, and it could make for some very interesting stories.
Definitely. Yeah, 2 weeks in a row, I've been very much invested in this show, and very excited to see where it goes. How many is it? 8 episodes? I can't remember.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't think it's 10. I believe it's like 8. So there's not many left before it's over, and then I think we're gonna go into. Is Falcon Winter Soldier? I'll look it up later. That's
Winter
coming
Soldier.
soon. Yeah. Hell yeah. Very excited for that one. Anything else you guys want to talk about regarding WandaVision episode number 5?
Well, I just want to say, for anyone who's not as familiar with the Marvel Universe, it probably sounds like we went wildly off topic here, but all these things are very interconnected, and this show honestly seems like it could set up all these things, which is why we're discussing it, because given the way that they're messing with the fabric of reality, this could be our setup for all these different shows and properties.
It's 9 episodes. I just looked it up.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I feel that it could be next week, it could be a couple episodes, and I feel like like you were saying earlier, Spencer, that given the weird turns we're taking and all the things that are happening, as a segue to this new slate of movies, this show could turn into one of those must watches.
I think just with the introduction of several new characters and the new villain, I think it would be the best way to tie it all in. You know, we had hints of Thanos pretty early on in the MCU movies. And we figured that out because I remember us talking. Like, we're just like, holy shit, how are they going to? And we were theorizing as to how they were going to do it, but they showed it pretty early on. So I think establishing a new villain and showing, I think that's also part of why they're showing how powerful Wanda is, so that when she fails to be able to best Mephisto, you can see that it's going to take more people. And I think that that's kind of what they're trying to establish early on. And I think it would be great to establish that early and then see where they go from there.
You know, I find it funny because you mentioned like early on, we kind of like we saw where these things could segue with that first Avengers movie and the cameo at the end. Like we saw that, but you know, there were some groups of people who didn't. Like I think me and Brian had the discussion because you know, we saw these movies with our families, and I know my mom at least kind of went like, "Oh, what's Hellboy doing in this movie?"
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, because you know, and it's been interesting this journey of audiences learning and taking the time to look up and you know trying to be a little more well versed in the lore because there is so much of it. And at that time, yeah, you know, you see Thanos, and you know a lot of people are like, well, who's that? I called bullshit on 90% of the audience who when at the end of Infinity War, when the pager fell and Captain Marvel's symbol popped up, and you know you have all the audience reactions of the audience cheering and everything. I'm like, get the fuck off! I was like, no bullshit, and I'm basing this off the book sales. Like 9 people read Captain Marvel. I was reading Miss Marvel way back in the day. You know, I've read Captain Marvel. I'm not saying I'm a big fan or I'm better than them or anything. Point I'm making is no one knew what that shit meant. They were it was a bullshit reaction. A lot of people were, you know, just like, oh, Captain Marvel's coming, and all of a sudden now they're super fans. If you want to support the character, go buy the book. It needs your help. It's not selling. So.
Well, yeah, and I agree with that, and because I've mentioned it before, how weird it was for me to see Iron Man become popular because I've been reading those books since I was little, and nobody liked Iron Man.
No.
You know, there weren't a lot of Iron Man fans around. You know, even of the comics when I was a kid, and you know, you could if you told little Larry back in the day, like, oh, Iron Man is going to be a big franchise. You know, everybody's going to be all about Iron Man. You know, they're going to be wearing AC/DC shirts as a reference to Tony Stark listening to the music and everything. And I would have called BS on that because just it wasn't that much of a thing, and just to see it get big the way that it has over time, it was pretty great. So yeah, if, like you said, if you like these characters, support them, push for them.
Look, comics are dying.
Yeah, true.
We could do a whole show on that. The comic industry is literally dying, and maybe it needs to some degree. It needs to transform. I don't know, but the film and show performances are definitely not reflective of what's happening in comic shops right now, and that's a whole other discussion. But anything else on this episode of Wanda?
I think we covered it and then some.
Yeah, I was bring up 13 more different things.
I could. That's the problem. We're digging into there's so much lore and stuff that could be discussed. But all right, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.